So you talked today about the importance of understanding that the Iranian people are with us, or at least they're not against us. And we've been hearing this for years. The question is how you facilitate it, what you do with this information. The Iranian people are with us, but the leadership are not letting anything happen. How can we change this? How can we make it happen?
Well, I mean, the paradigm has to shift, and I think some key governments, including the United States government, have to understand that while the regime remains a hostile enemy, they have a partner in the Iranian people as friends who are a completely different viewpoint than what the regime represents. So understanding that potential, understanding that millions of Iranians are standing there and are the difference between what this regime represents in terms of threats to the world's security and stability and the region, the Iranian people, quite the opposite, will seek friendship and cordial relationship with our neighborhood. The relationship between Iran and the Jews is biblical. Let's not forget that. 25 centuries ago, when Cyrus the Great freed the Jewish slaves in Babylon and helped them rebuild their temple in Jerusalem, that was the relationship at first of the Persian Empire many, many centuries ago with the Jews. And in modern history, as Ilan explained in my introduction, the role that Iran played, giving asylum to Jews fleeing Hitler, and it is embedded in our sense of national identity. We celebrate our diversity of ethnicity, of religious groups, from Christians to Zoroastrians to Jews and what have you, as opposed to the regime who is categorically against all. That's the difference.
But the question is the following. We're in the midst of a war, and everyone understands that it's a war with Iran, and there might be even military actions. So how do we come out of this with the Iranians being our best friends when there's a war happening and they're also influenced by their leadership, no?
Way before you think that the solution to the problem is by waging war against a country, you have to realize that the best army in place are the people of Iran themselves. They are the actual boots on the ground. All they need is the extra support and help so they can better organize their strikes, their demonstrations, and be able to really rely on the kind of support that we witnessed towards the end of the Cold War. None of these dissidents in Russia, or for that matter, movements like Solidarity in Poland, were successful without some tacit support coming from the free world. Same thing in the case of apartheid in South Africa and the whole ANC movement. Iranians have been calling for a long time for support from the outside world, particularly the Western world, whether it's America or Europe or its allies. And this is why I think that the best response is not to say, we are going to fight the war. Iranians are ready to fight that war, but they cannot do it alone. That's the difference.
So the West shouldn't attack? The West, Israel should not attack at this point?
Well, first of all, I cannot, as a patriot, as a nationalist, accept any kind of military intervention against my country. I've always been against it. That's my red line. But I think there's a much better solution that you don't have to even do that, because the best vulnerability of this regime and what is the most scared of are the people themselves. That's why they're cracking down on people. That's why they're shooting our kids in the eye, because they think that nobody is challenging them on that. But if they saw that Iranians are actually being backed and supported by the outside world, then they will think twice. And it plays into my strategy of creating maximum defections from this.
And the West is afraid really to support just declarations, but it's not really supporting?
Look, at the end of the day, you have to have strong leaders who understand the fundamental problems and make the proper decisions. This is something I can't control. I can only do my part and represent and explain to them what it is that my fellow compatriots expect. But I think that strong leadership is definitely going to be the difference. Look, in the past 100 years, we witnessed twice the free world prevailing in some major important conflicts. The first time was the Second World War, and you had a strong president in Roosevelt in Washington, as well as Winston Churchill in London. And that put an end to the Second World War and the Hitler and Nazism. The second time around was towards the end of the Cold War. You had a strong leader in the name of Ronald Reagan in Washington and Nancy Thatcher in England. Same thing. What do we have now? Do we have that strong leadership? We need that strong leadership. We all have to do our part. And that's how it needs to be coordinated. Washington is key. Of course, Jerusalem is key. Some key countries in Europe and the Middle East as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.